All right, let's dive into something truly pressing today. It's really reshaping things, both on the battlefield and, well, in the wider world, too. Just this week, Ukraine is making waves, a whole new arsenal, and it's domestically produced. We're talking about the Jetmax bomber drone. This thing can carry, what, 44 pounds of explosives?
That's right. Up to 9 miles.
And right after that, news of the Flamingo cruise missile. The range on that is astonishing.
1,860 miles.
A real game changer for deep strikes, absolutely. Reaching far into enemy territory.
And then there's the domestically guided air bomb, dropped from a MiG-29, specifically designed, it seems, to counter Russia's glide bombs.
Yeah, those UMPKs have been a major problem.
Okay, but here's where it gets really complicated, right?
Right.
While all this tech is surging forward, the diplomatic side is, well, it's complex. We've seen former President Trump hinting at openness, maybe a realistic settlement.
Right, the potential Alaska summit in August 2025 with Putin.
Followed by talks with Zelensky, European leaders.
Yeah.
But still, no actual concrete peace deal. Still seems quite far off, doesn't it?
It does. So what does this big strategic chess match really mean for, for you listening?
Well, that's the core question.
We're seeing this incredible defense innovation burst happening alongside these huge strategic and financial shifts.
Like the NATO spending targets.
Exactly. NATO members aiming for 5% of GDP on defense by 2035. That's potentially $4.2 trillion a year.
A staggering figure.
It really is. And it's not just about buying new weapons. It feels like a fundamental rethink, reshaping whole economies, global alliances.
Absolutely.
So when you have this cutting-edge weaponry clashing with these older, maybe more entrenched strategic ideas, what actually defines victory now?
That's such a critical point. What's really striking here is that even with this rapid, almost dizzying evolution in military tech, it hasn't fundamentally broken the diplomatic stalemate or, dictated a clear military win for either side.
Right.
So our deep dive today is going to explore just that, how Ukraine's new defense tech is changing things tactically on the ground, how Russia's responding, often sticking to its long-held strategic thinking, and crucially, the massive geopolitical and economic ripples this sends out for you as a global citizen, as an investor.
We'll try to connect those dots, yeah.
Exactly. Connect the dots, give you the bigger picture, help you understand why both this fast innovation and the traditional strategy, they both matter more than ever.
Okay, let's start there. Ukraine's push for self-reliance in defense tech. It seems remarkable, almost improvisational, driven by the war itself.
It really is. And this brings up a key question. What specific innovations are we seeing? And what capabilities do they really bring? Let's take that Flamingo cruise missile.
Okay.
Developed by a company called Firepoint. It's not just the range, nearly 2,000 miles, or the big warhead, over 2,500 pounds.
Which is impressive enough.
It is. But what's truly remarkable, I think, is the scale of industrial ambition behind it.
How so?
They're currently making 1 missile per day.
1 a day? Wow.
And aiming for 7 daily by October 2025. Yeah. Potentially over 2,500 units a year. That kind of industrial push, that really changes their deep strike options fundamentally.
That's an incredible ramp up. So beyond just hitting targets deep in Russia, refineries, power plants, air bases, things usually out of reach, what's the sort of deeper significance of making these domestically?
Well, the insight here is, I think, twofold, and it's profound. First, it obviously cuts down their reliance on foreign supplies, gives them more autonomy.
Right, less waiting for deliveries or approvals.
Exactly. And second, critically important, because they make it themselves, there are no Western-imposed limitations on striking targets inside Russia.
Ah, that's a huge factor.
It is. Irina Terek, who heads production at Firepoint, she apparently emphasized its effectiveness over its playful color, which just tells you it's about pure capability.
Got it. Okay, so beyond the long reach of the Flamingo, Ukraine's also dealing with threats closer to the front lines, those Russian glide bombs.
Yes, the UMPKs, they've been devastating.
What's their answer? What's the strategic move there beyond just, building a counterweapon?
Well, their answer is this new domestically guided air bomb from the Midway Design Bureau.
Yeah, Midway, okay.
And it's a direct, pretty ingenious response to those UMPKs, those unpowered bombs Russia uses, dropped from a distance.
Right, outside the range of many defenses.
Precisely. This new Ukrainian bomb, it's been seen on a MiG-29. They've tested it successfully, dropping a FAB-500 bomb from a Su-24M bomber.
And the range?
They hit 60 kilometers in tests, aiming for 80. Now, externally, it looks a bit like the Russian UMPK.
For speed of development, maybe?
Probably.
Yeah.
But the internal components are distinct, supposedly for better precision. Development started fast, June 2024, tests in September.
That's quick.
Very. And there are already hints it's being used in combat. Kherson region, maybe? It's rapid, necessity-driven stuff, trying to level the playing field.
And then there's that drone we mentioned, the Jetmax bomber drone. How does that fit into the tactical picture? What does it show about Ukrainian ingenuity?
The Jetmax is another key piece, yeah. Shows their agility. It carries up to 20 kilos, 44 pounds of explosives, stays up for 40 minutes.
Okay.
Designed for those closer-in, precise strikes.
Yeah.
Enemy gear, comms, troops, up to 15 kilometers, so under 10 miles.
And it's pretty adaptable.
Very.
Yeah.
Can drop different kinds of munitions. What's interesting is how Ukraine really led the way with these heavy bomber drones. The Russians apparently call them Baba Yaga.
Baba Yaga,
Like the witch.
yeah, suggests they see them as a real nightmare. It just shows how smaller forces can use tech cleverly, punch above their weight. Russia's playing catch-up in this specific area, it seems.
It sounds like Ukraine's thinking comprehensively, not just for today. What else is on their defense tech roadmap for 2025? Natalia Kushnerska at Brave One mentioned some things.
She did. Natalia Kushnerska emphasizes ongoing innovation. Missiles, AI, drone swarms. That's the focus.
Drone swarms. Interesting.
Yeah, and interceptor drones, too. They're already claiming around 20 confirmed hits on enemy spy drones with those.
There's also a big push for domestic alternatives to, say, Chinese drones. Reduce that external reliance again.
Makes sense.
And looking further out, AI-driven drones, where the AI handles the whole flight, not just the final target lock. The idea is to beat jamming.
So, fully autonomous operation.
That seems to be the goal.
Yeah.
And critically, developing those long-range strike drones over 1,000 kilometers to bring the war, directly to Russia's home front, challenge their sense of security.
Okay, so we have Ukraine with this rapid, adaptive, tech-focused approach. How is Russia with its, deeply ingrained strategic thinking? How are they trying to counter this? Are they meeting tech with tech or just falling back on older, maybe brute force methods?
That really is the core paradox here, isn't it? Russia's military thinking, despite making significant tactical changes on the ground, it remains largely unchanged at the higher operational and strategic levels.
So doctrine over adaptation.
In a way, yes. The insight, I think, is that for Russia, military doctrine is deeply tied to national identity, history. This strategic continuity isn't just stubbornness. It's a core belief that superior mass, superior endurance will eventually win out over agile innovation.
They're betting on attrition, basically.
Effectively, yes. Betting on attrition over fundamental adaptation. Their military elites seem to see the war as validating their pre-2022 concepts. General Gerasimov's ideas.
Right.
The core assumptions are still there. Set conditions in the threatening period, overwhelm in the initial period, impose costs with defense and long-range strikes, breaks the enemy's will.
And they see Western help not just as aid.
Exactly. They genuinely seem to view Western involvement as direct engagement against Russia, not just helping Ukraine.
That's a crucial difference in perspective. So on the ground, what does this strategic continuity mean for their combined arms operations, especially with Ukraine's tech and this transparent battlefield idea?
Well, they've had to acknowledge failures. They haven't been able to pull off those effective blitzkrieg-style maneuvers, the rapid tank and infantry breakthroughs.
Why not?
They blame this transparent battlefield. Ubiquitous ISR intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance, plus all the mass precision firepower from drones, artillery, anti-tank missiles. It just makes it almost impossible to mass forces without being seen and hit.
So if they can't do the old blitzkrieg, how are they trying to get maneuver back if they're not changing the core doctrine?
Their responses focus mostly on restoring those capabilities, not really inventing new strategies from scratch. It involves several things.
Okay, like what?
First, just sheer size. A massive increase in force size, aiming for 1.5 million troops up from 900,000 by 2035, creating new divisions, lots of new artillery divisions, Army Aviation Brigade.
More firepower, more bodies.
Essentially. Second, counter-ISR is huge for them, developing anti-satellite weapons, directed energy weapons, trying to blind the enemy's eyes in space, plus better traditional air defense Panzer, S-400, and new weapons specifically for smaller drones.
Trying to negate that transparency.
Exactly. Third, they're going back to Soviet-scale operations.
Yeah.
Just overwhelming mass firepower to, as they say, suppress all living things, using drones and loitering munitions alongside massive artillery barrages.
Grim.
It is. And finally, better passive measures, camouflage, decoys. And they know their command and control needs fixing. They're pushing for fully automated, unified C2 centers because the current systems just can't keep up. It's a strategy of scale and force, enhanced by tech, but the basic strategic goal hasn't shifted.
Okay, and what about at sea? The Black Sea Fleet took some serious hits from Ukraine's innovative tactics.
They really did. Lost nearly a third of their surface ships, forced back to the eastern Black Sea. Ukraine's sea denial using those coastal defense missiles, sea drones, land attack missiles, it worked.
So how is the Russian Navy responding? Same pattern?
Largely, yes. Tactical and technological fixes, not a fundamental rethink of naval operations. They're focused on making ships harder to hit, better defenses against drones and missiles.
More machine guns, electronic warfare.
Things like that, yes. Also, trying to increase fleet capacity with more modern corvettes, maybe even looking at buying ships from partners like China to fill gaps quickly.
Interesting.
And developing their own robotic systems, drones, unmanned surface vessels for recon, strike, electronic warfare. Plus, boosting long-range strike with Kelebuzels, adding hypersonic Zircon missiles to frigates. Again, adapting capabilities within the existing framework.
So advanced tech from Ukraine, meeting traditional strategy with tactical tech tweaks from Russia. How did this play out in the air? For Russia's aerospace forces, the VKS.
It's been a mixed picture for the VKS. They really failed to suppress Ukraine's air defenses or gain air superiority. Tactical aircraft use has been largely, well, a failure.
But some parts worked.
Their ground-based air defenses, like the BUK M3 and S-400, performed quite well. And strategic bombers did contribute significantly with standoff cruise missile strikes. But even those didn't break Ukraine's will, which was the strategic aim.
And their response? More the same pattern?
Pretty much. Focus on increasing force size, getting more advanced tech, but no big shifts in air strategy or doctrine. Ground-based air defense is still critical. They're looking at AI maybe to help with targeting.
Okay.
Long-range precision strike remains a cornerstone. Missiles from ground, air, sea, plus drones like the Shaheds. But production limits and Ukrainian resilience have hampered the strategic goals.
And AI integration.
They talk about it a lot.
Yeah.
For command and control, ISR, dynamic targeting, common operating pictures. But their current systems seem to have a, quote, fundamental inability to dynamically target moving things effectively. So the vision is there, the reality less so right now.
This is fascinating. This clash, Ukraine's agile tech versus Russia's doctrinal adherence, it's clearly not just happening on the battlefield. It's sending ripples everywhere. Global economy, geopolitics. What does this big strategic picture mean for stability and, well, for our wallets?
That's the critical question, right?
Yeah.
What are the broader risks, the opportunities emerging from this security landscape, especially for global markets? We see Putin's hybrid warfare, continuing cyber attacks, energy leverage, disinformation, destabilizing Europe.
Which forces Europe's hand.
Directly. It's compelling the EU to speed up defense modernization. That $800 billion Rearm Europe initiative you hear about.
Yeah.
The insight there is it's not just a budget boost. It feels more like a refoundational investment. Europe pivoting back to a more robust, deterrence-focused security stance. It signals a major reprioritization of national security, potentially for decades.
A huge shift for Europe. How does the diplomacy, especially with former President Trump's potential involvement, stir this pot?
Well, Trump's diplomatic moves, like the potential Alaska summit, they definitely inject market uncertainty. There's the risk of pressure on Ukraine over territory, creates volatility.
But there's another side.
There is. It's also arguably triggering what some are calling a defense supercycle. Under this pressure, NATO members are now really committing to that 5% GDP defense spending target by 2035.
Right, the 3.5% for capabilities, 1.5% for infrastructure and cyber?
Exactly. And that commitment could mean that staggering $4.2 trillion a year flowing into NATO defense by 2035, driving massive procurement drones, tanks, advanced systems.
And we're seeing some countries already moving fast.
Absolutely. Look at Eastern Europe, Poland, Lithuania. They're already leading the way in per capita defense spending. Political will is turning into economic action pretty quickly.
That's a major realignment. What about energy? How's this conflict shaking up global energy markets and the green transition? What does it mean for energy security?
Well, the EU's Repower EU plan is pushing hard to end reliance on Russian fossil fuels by 2027. That creates urgent demand for alternatives.
And Ukraine itself?
Ukraine's getting significant funds, $224 million for renewable capacity, aiming for 10 gigawatts by 2030. It's a clear signal of wanting long-term energy independence.
Meanwhile, Russia's looking elsewhere for customers.
They have to, pivoting energy exports to BRICS nations, India, China especially. This creates these sort of dual energy challenges, particularly for Eastern Europe, as they try to balance sources, invest in things like hydrogen and LNG, all while navigating this really complex global energy picture.
So, for investors listening, how are these big geopolitical and economic currents shaping actual investment strategies? What's the thinking behind the allocations?
Investors are definitely responding. We're seeing portfolio allocations shifting, roughly 40% to defense, 35% to the energy transition, 25% to infrastructure.
Interesting breakdown.
Yeah, and the insight isn't just what they're allocating, but why those percentages. It reflects this growing belief that national security, critical infrastructure, energy independence, these are becoming primary drivers of economic stability and growth in, well, a more fractured world.
Hedging against the uncertainty.
It's exactly. Yeah. Lots of hedging strategies, to gold, euro forwards to manage the volatility coming from the U.S.-Russia dynamic. Defense firms like Lockheed Martin, Rheinmetall, European defense ETFs, they're clear beneficiaries.
Makes sense.
But digging a bit deeper, especially with Ukraine's focus on AI-driven drone swarms,
Yeah.
maybe investors should also be looking beyond just the big traditional defense contractors,
Towards what?
towards specialized AI software companies, autonomous systems developers. That's potentially where the truly disruptive growth and innovation might be concentrated.
What an incredible deep dive today. We've really covered a lot of ground. Ukraine's rapid, almost breakneck advancements in missiles, drones, driven by necessity, aiming for self-reliance and real striking power, and then exploring Russia's adherence to its core military doctrines. Adapting tactically, yes, with huge force increases, tech tweaks, but not really shifting those fundamental strategic goals.
And what's truly striking, I think, is that even with all this amazing cutting-edge technology and these massive refoundational investments we're seeing, the political and strategic factors, they still seem paramount.
Right.
That huge NATO defense spending commitment, the ongoing diplomatic maneuvering, it just highlights how complex the path to stability really is. It's this tangle of military power, huge economic shifts, and just sheer political will.
So for you, our listener, the takeaway seems to be understanding that while the battles might be fought with drones and precision strikes, the larger conflict, the bigger picture, is still heavily shaped by these entrenched ideas, geopolitical pressures, the scale of national commitment.
And that impacts everything. Global stability right down to your investment portfolio.
Which leaves us with maybe a final provocative thought to consider.
Okay.
Could this continued reliance on older strategic playbooks, even when you bolt on advanced weapons, could it actually lock nations into an endless, very costly cycle of attrition rather than leading to a clear victory or ultimately a lasting, stable peace?
That's a heavy question, and one that will likely define the next few decades.